talking about YOLO. My boss then says, okay, I had to explain YOLO to my husband. He had no idea. Mind you, like, he grew up in a time when he knew YOLO, right? So we have our Gen Z coworker then, like, start filling all of us in on, like, the new, like, slang terms. So my boss is a parent. Her kids are Gen Alpha. And she was like, okay, so what does X mean, right? Or what do you say other than YOLO now? My Gen Z coworker says, we don't do that no more. That's old. We just say, fuck it, we ball. I was like,
fuck it, we ball. That's something that I could get along with.
I was like, hey, yo, facts. She said, fuck it, we ball. Or she said, another thing Gen Z say is, like, if they have nothing to say, they'll say, damn, that's crazy. And I was like, we say that anyway. So.
Like they're trying to take ownership of millennial things. Like,
Yeah.
be original. Be a Randolph College graduate. Right,
Right.
Catherine? Should have had.
Is that really? Is that?
It really is a. I found it moving today. Stop hating on my hat. You
I'm not
guys.
hating on the hat. I'm still wondering if they're still doing the slogan, be original.
I don't know, but I just gotta say, Catherine, you look great with the hat. You should wear hats more often. Welcome to the Unsolicited Counseling Podcast. We're your hosts. I'm Martin.
Catherine, you go first. I want to pass the puck on to you.
Okay, well, I have a bone to pick with you guys before I introduce myself.
Oh, what happened?
So today, doing all the driving that I'm doing, I decided to check out our podcast and listen to it. So I go on, yep, I go on to Apple Podcasts, which is where I usually listen to my podcasts. Search Unsolicited Counseling Podcast. It pops up and it says Jermaine and Martin. Those two names. So then I was like, oh, well, maybe there's just not enough space for all three names. So then I click on the about info. Copyright Jermaine and Martin. I have screenshots to prove it, receipts. I'll send it to you.
Yeah, we're gonna need those receipts. I think there's something wrong with the system. There's actually like a character limit on putting in the bios and everything. So, we're gonna have our guys work on that. It's gonna be me, probably Jermaine, working on that. But yeah, just like the hat you're on, we're all about capping. So, can we please introduce ourselves so we can get started with this podcast? God,
yes, please.
We'll get it in post, Kat.
The seat's getting a little hot. The seat's getting a little hot, you guys.
The dork. Such a dork. You know what? Screw the intros. We're done with the intros. You guys missed your opportunity. Thank you all for joining us today. We are back live again for another episode, and we're really excited to be back on here. It's another week. Last week was a shit show. Sorry for the ranting that we did because we were going through the motions last week, but over the weekend, decompressed a little bit. We got back to our senses, and now I think we're back to our happy-go-lucky, positive messaging. What do you think, Jermaine?
I think, yeah, you're right, man. We had to do some decompressing. You gotta get all the bad energy out first, as we learned from our residential yoga instructor. You gotta get the bad energy out and breathe the good energy in. So you gotta have balance. Thanos said it best. Shout out to Thanos. Everything in balance is always the best way to go. So with that, we're here to really share some light. Maybe the topic might not be as balanced. We're gonna find it anyway. So we're glad Catherine could be on here today. You mentioned that you did a lot of driving today. So what's up? What's up with that? What have you been doing?
Family stuff. So driving across a couple different states, helping out my brother, helping out my granddaddy. A lot of rain,
All on the rain.
Yep, listening to some podcasts.
Yeah.
All right, we'll get that in. We'll figure that out. We'll figure that out later. But as always, it's so good to see you guys. I love being on this episode. Love you the listeners for joining in. So what are we going to be talking about today? Last week was ranting. Let's bring a little love in this equation. So today we're going to go back to love again. It's almost springtime. You love it, you hate it. We're about to spring forward, but we're gonna find some love in this. As the flowers bloom, we're gonna talk about love. We're gonna talk about how not to time out.
Time
All
out.
right.
Who hates spring forward? Spring forward is the best time of the year. We
What?
escape the darkness and the depression and the sad time of being dark when you wake up, dark when you go to bed. The best time of the year is when you wake up, you got sun. You go to bed, there's still sun. You get the light out, you can run at any time. I'm just speaking to us runners, but you go out at 5 a.m. By the time you get home from your run, the sun is up, you're getting some vitamin D. It's just it's an amazing time. Spring forward over fall back any day.
I
No?
dispute that.
No?
I doubt it. You get more sleep with fall back. You get extra hour or the oh here we go.
Tell me you're depressed without telling me you're depressed. Tell me. Just explain it to me because if you're excited about being asleep, you're not building, you're not growing, you're not working hard. Those hours that you have in bed, I'm already up grinding. I'm running. I'm working on the podcast. I'm not working very hard, obviously, because if you check the YouTube page, I'm
I
slacking
did
a
the
little
same shit, brother.
bit.
Sleep is self-care, though. If you're working too hard, you're not taking care of yourself. If I miss that hour of sleep, that just messes up my self-care ritual for the entire week. I feel grumpy, you know. It's hard to catch up on that hour.
Actually, let's talk about it. What is your self care ritual?
I like this.
Oh, you weren't prepared for that.
I was not
Catherine.
actually, yeah.
She's like,
See, just like
let
her
me
hat,
tell.
another cap, another instance of capping. It's okay. We can move past it if you're not ready.
That's like when you're not ready for the homework question. You're just like, that wasn't on the study guide. We didn't talk about this.
Flashback to elementary school, Catherine.
It was a pure deer in the headlights moment. But taking it back, this episode we're going to talk about quiet quitting when it comes to relationships and in love, in your marriage, in your relationships, so on and so forth. This actually came up because I think we've all seen Married at First Sight, but this season actually had a couple, Morgan and Ben. And towards the entire time for the most part, really, but she's been like quiet quitting because Ben betrayed her trust in the season, and she just couldn't get past the fact that he called her a nurse in quotation marks for those listening on Spotify. So, yeah, so we're going to talk about quiet quitting in a relationship. But before we get into that, Catherine says she had a story about she was talking to someone about love. You want to speak on that?
Uh, Yesterday I had a conversation with a mentor, and I called her with a problem, and we like circled all the way around, and she basically said, like, what you're describing, you're calling it love, but it doesn't actually sound like love. And I just had a crazy light bulb moment that I was going to talk about with you guys. Because she was basically saying that loving a person in any like type of relationship capacity, whether it's romantic or like family or friend, you don't love that person for like the role that they play or like what you expect them to. You just like love the person even if they don't do something that you're expecting. Um, yeah.
Mm.
Is that making sense? I'm trying to keep it pretty general just because of,
Yeah, the sensitive topic.
yeah, yeah, I don't have everyone's permission to put it on the pod.
Right, of
Yeah.
course.
No, and that's fair. So when you say that, you're saying that whether they do something that you dislike or approve of, you love them throughout it, and it's not just you're not only loving them when they do something positive. You're loving them for their bad too.
No, it's more like expectations of like roles. So you're loving the person for like who they are and not necessarily for what you expect them to be.
Uh,
So it's not really based on like actions or what they do or don't do. It's just that like if this person is really funny and they're constantly cracking jokes, you don't say like, "No, actually, you're 30 years old. I need you to be serious." You love this
oh, okay.
person for like for who they are.
Again,
Oh,
at me next time.
Yeah.
Like that. Sorry, go ahead, Jermaine. What were you gonna say?
No, I was gonna mention like when she said roles, because it seems like it's not only just roles, but their personality that they portray in the beginning. Like, I was gonna use my dad for example. Is like I had the expectation as a son that my dad was gonna be, not go get cigarettes and never come back, or come back after like 10, 15 years. I had that expectation. My bad. I was 5, but um, but on like to make it more serious, it's like now that we're cultivating a relationship, it's like I can't have that. It's not having that expectation of the role, but taking what if you love them, take them of who they are, and don't try to change them. I'll use a better
Yeah.
example, and I'm gonna add you, Martin, and this is a good thing. When and you're gonna see like how me and Martin are road dogs. Every time a girl I would bring around, I was like, hey, just so you know, Martin might be a little extra. And they were like, oh, really? And I was like, but honestly, he's the best person you'll ever have. And anytime someone will be like, oh, he's an asshole. And I was like, man, you don't know him like that. I would stand you because it's like, I don't want you to have to change to be around the person. I don't want them to expect that. This is the package. This is my best friend. And I want them to acknowledge that. And if they don't like that, then to me, I'm like, okay, this is either not going to work or we're going to have some issues. But it's like taking it like that, looking at what they're presenting and seeing them as that, and not hoping that they reach the level of what you want them to be. That perfection, that ideal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I get it. So you're saying loving them for who they are, not for their potential.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
Or
That's
potential, or like I said, expectations, like in a role or something like that. Um, I don't know. It sounds simple, but it was actually mind blowing to me.
no, and I don't want to minimize your thoughts on it. Like I think that that's valuable. I think that you have to love the person for who they are and not for what you want them to be, what you expect them to be, like any type of potential that they may have. Like you love that person. I think the I guess the part that I was confused on was I thought the question was what is love and not how do you love? Because it seems like it's more, you love the person. If you love someone, you're going to love them for who they are. It's like I was thinking, like, what is love is more like, is it a feeling? Is it a thought? Is it how you treat people? Like, I thought that's where we were going with it. So I didn't know, but I do agree with what your mentor said. I think that you love someone for who they are, thick and thin, and it's okay to fall out of love or not to love the person too. Like
Yeah.
if it becomes too much, it's possible to not love that person anymore.
Yeah. And I think, like, in the context of our conversation, how we were talking about it, I was explaining that, like, oh, I feel love. Like, for me, in my particular situation, if I do things that make me, like, the perfect granddaughter, the perfect daughter, for
Mm.
example.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then she was essentially saying that, like, oh, but that doesn't really sound like love to me. That sounds like you're just, like, meeting someone else's expectations. Um,
Or people pleasing.
yeah.
It
Who
all
can't?
connects. It's just
Not
all.
me.
Catherine, a people pleaser, never.
No.
Uh,
But that's
you
facts,
know,
though. I like that, though.
yeah, that is interesting. So it kind of does tie in a little bit to the episode too, because we're talking about how people, married at first sight, they meet each other for the first time at the altar, and they have to find a way to not only cultivate love but stay together through the thicks and thins. And you got to accept the person for who they are because you're married to them, right? They do get that 8 week period where they can have like the decision days, or was it 12 weeks? Is it 8 weeks? 12 weeks? Something to that effect.
I think it's 8 weeks.
Yeah, 8 weeks.
Basically trial marriage.
Yeah, it's a trial marriage, and they annul it after the 8 weeks if it doesn't work out. And it's interesting to see how the different couples approach it, like, and different people in the relationships. Like one person might say, "Oh, I need you to love me by a certain point in time. Some people come in like, oh, I'm just trying to see where this goes and take it in like a relationship route and not like a true marriage. Other people are like,
Mhm.
I'm all in, you're my person, I'm going to give you my everything. You just see different levels. And then this relationship with Morgan and Ben, it was like initially, I think they both went in with good intentions. And, so some person got hurt. And, obviously she was dealing with a lot of childhood trauma and issues that led to
Oh
her
yeah.
being, a tough cookie, if you will. But it makes you wonder, like, did she really give her all? And that's what this episode is about. It's like the quiet quitting because she was in it at one point, but by the end of the season, they didn't make it. So I guess what do we think happened? What does quiet quitting look like in a relationship? That's what we're talking about. I don't know, Captain. Do you have any opinions on it? What do you think quiet quitting looks like in a relationship?
It initially, when we talked about this topic, it made me, when I worked for the telemedicine company, we had a therapist that worked like with us on the product side, and they were saying that in their field, the biggest tell for divorce was stonewalling. Once people got to a place where they just like completely shut out their partner, stonewalled them, gave up, that was like there was almost nothing he could do to like revive that relationship. So it made me think of this. Like quiet quitting is basically just like being apathetic or giving in or stopping like trying and sharing yourself with.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting that this article and we'll put the article in the description below for you guys. But I thought it was very interesting that in this article they referred to, like you said, the basically being apathetic and kind of like checking out of a relationship to quiet quitting. Because isn't quiet quitting just doing the base, like
Mm.
for work wise, right? Because we use quiet quitting in terms of like this is what my job should be. I shouldn't have to take on other positions unless I receive that, right? I shouldn't be doing overly extending just to appease my boss and whatever for the hopes of it. I should just be able to do it. That's what makes businesses mad because they're like, people aren't doing all this stuff. And then they use quiet quitting in this article to refer to relationships while that it to me is kind of different because it's like this quiet quitting is kind of like a slow ghost. Like you're just slowly like stepping out. Like I don't know if you guys watched the new episode of Abbott Elementary. If not, I'm not going to spoil it for you guys. Um,
I've seen it.
but you've seen it.
Hmm.
But it's like I'm not going to spoil it. But it's like to me, just doing the minimum and like whatever is kind of like okay, I'll do whatever I need to do just so X person realize and whoever wants to realize and break up is like slowly fading, like the meme, like the meme of the guy piecing out and disappearing. Versus quiet quitting at work, it's like I'm just not going to do all these expectations for work. So I wonder what your thought before we dig into this article or other thoughts. I wanted to see you guys' thought process on that. Well, the use of the word quiet quitting for quiet quitting, like marriage or relationships.
Yeah, I can jump in here. So when I thought about the article and I read it, I think that quiet quitting can absolutely apply to your relationship. Like quiet quitting can come in many different forms. Like it says doing the bare minimum in the work sense is quiet quitting. Like doing the tasks assigned to you, not trying to overachieve. That's basically quiet quitting and just getting things done. I think in a relationship, it looks different. It's more, hey, I'm physically here for you. Like I'm here, but I'm not gonna, overly involve myself in how your day went. I'm not gonna overly get involved with, and get excited, like plan trips around you, like plan trips for us. I'm just gonna think about myself.
Mm.
I'm gonna go to a concert by myself and I invite you to it. Like stuff like that. I know, sorry, that was low hanging fruit. But our listeners can relate to it because we talked about it in the past. Um, but I think that that's partially like not taking your partner's feelings into account with what you do. And I think we saw that, continuing using Married at First Sight as an example. We saw that with Alexis and Justin that season as well, where Alexis was going out to the club and wasn't really listening to him like crawling out like, hey, like I want to spend time with you too. Why does it every weekend you have to go out? Like, why can't we, spend time here together? And that's an extreme example, but at a certain point, it's like, all right, are you really here for the relationship, or you just don't want to break up? You just like
Mm.
you like the comfort. You don't want to be the person who says, no, this isn't working. You're just trying to just get by because it's safe.
Well, yeah, isn't that the point of quiet quitting too? Is like, well, I'm not going to do it, but they can fire me if they want to. Like, I'm here, I'm doing my job, and if they're not happy with it, they can fire me. Uh,
Mm.
and I'm still like getting the benefits while I do this. So is that kind of like the same thing?
So when I think of quiet quitting in the work sense, it's doing you're doing your job, like you're doing what you were hired to
Yeah.
do. Like you're not exceeding, you're not doing anything more than what you were paid to do. So it's just like doing the bare minimum. You're not trying to quit. You're not trying to lose your job. You're not trying to get fired. You're just not valuing yourself as an employee with that company or with that organization or whatever you're doing. That's how I'm picturing quiet quitting. I don't know. Is that on par with your thoughts?
Well, now I'm kind of connecting and seeing it based on like, because even in the article they mentioned that this is not a very new thing. Like people have been doing this for like decades, where um they would be like, oh well, we got married, so let me just do enough. I mean, when divorce was okay, I guess back when it wasn't cool, they were like, nah, you can't get divorced. The Lord said we can't do it. Some people even use that example though. They'll use things where they're like, "Oh, okay, I don't have to do this stuff I already made. Gave you the ring. We went to marriage and everything. Like when it comes to marriage, and even in a relationship, it's like they'll do the smallest thing, and then they're like, okay, that's it. So they don't even like. It's not a slow walk. It's like I'll do the bare minimum. I'll get my benefits. I'm still gonna get my like yearly blowjob or whatever like for birthday, Christmas, whatever. I'm still gonna get it. It's just but the relationship is gonna stale. But it's enough to not let it go sour. So that's why I'm thinking it's like the same thing. It's similar to quiet quitting in that example.
Wait, y'all give them blowjobs yearly?
Wait, that's the
I
new
can't.
merch, you guys.
Real
let,
heavy.
let us know if you want that on a shirt. Let us know. Also, Janae's starting an OnlyFans for in the future.
But man, I'll be in shape by the time the OnlyFans are up. I'll be good.
Oh
This
my.
week can see the abs now, so I'm almost made it. I'm almost there, Dad.
I didn't hear the rest of what you said.
No, that's what I was just saying. I was correlating with quiet quitting and quiet quitting in a relationship where it's still not trying to get out. You're still okay. It's like I'm waiting for that other person to pull the trigger, and while I'm here, I'm going to reap the benefits.
Yeah, I guess the benefit in my head would be that you're still in a relationship.
Yeah.
One of the sections in the article was talking about like the business side of it. Like, you're just like, oh, I can't afford to live on my own. Like I have this financial security with this partner. I have no emotional attachment. I'm not thinking about. I'm not empathetic to what they're going through. I'm not like in it, and my heart's not really in it. But it makes good financial sense to stay together because what am I gonna like? I can't afford this rent by myself. My
Well,
partner's the breadwinner, so let's just do the bare minimum that I can do to make sure that they think that everything is great. Like that's what I'm thinking of quiet quitting is in a relationship. That's what it looks like.
and
And
you say,
go ahead.
oh no, I saw or maybe I was listening to a different podcast, and they were talking about how, like, if you think about,
How dare you?
well, my name's not
No,
even
go
on
ahead.
this
Go.
one. And then I went through and read the descriptions, and my name's not mentioned in the episodes that I am on either in writing. So, anyways, uh,
She also has the receipts. I don't know if you guys captured that, but she has the receipts as well.
Right. I haven't let this go. We'll talk about this off air.
You're right.
um, no, this podcast was talking about in relationships, if you think about a graph and you're like at the 0 line, that in a like good relationship, the majority of your feelings should be above 0 and like happy, and occasionally it dips down below 0, but it like stays above happy. Like bad relationship, you're at like neutral and it is below 0 and maybe above a little bit. Um, but if you're quiet quitting, I would imagine that like there are still some like happy times, you know, because you haven't quit completely. So some of the benefits you're getting are like you're chasing some of those happy moments too.
Mm. Is it like the carrot and the stick thing? Like it just
Yeah, maybe.
at moments when the good times happen, you're like, I'm constantly trying to get to that good time, or like always refer to like, oh well, it's not all that bad. Like yeah, relationship sucks. Yes, he doesn't do these things. Yes, when other people tell he or she doesn't. I hear other couples say this, I'm envious, but he did this really sweet thing a year ago, or that one time we went to this vacation like 5 years ago or something like that. It can happen again, and it's like this hope of things becoming the same again, just like the employers want their employees to go
Yeah.
back.
Oh, the good old days when we went to the office every single day. Man, we were kings back then.
We were kings.
Oh, and the like other excuse of like there might not be a better job out there. I really like I like my like comfortable life right now and how flexible my schedule is and steady the paycheck is and how little work I have to put in.
Mm. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
people. I think people in some relationships get to that point where they're just like, you know what, this is just comfortable. I know this person's gonna piss me off, but like I can plan for it. I can plan around them pissing me off. I can just tolerate it just enough not to uproot my life and change it entirely. And I think a lot of people get into situations where they kind of feel stuck in a relationship, and I think that I don't know. Do you think that kind of relates to quitting in a relationship as well? Like just that stuck feeling where you're like, I
Mhm.
can't really leave, and it's not in like a emotional abuse type of way. It's just I don't really like this person type of way. But what else am I gonna do? Is the grass really green on the other side? Like you were kind of referencing, is the grass green on the other side? Like, are there better options? Am I what's my market rate looking like? How can I dip my toe in the water and kind of see what it's looking like? Should I be listening to Drake right now, or should I wait? Like, what do I do?
I
Yeah.
don't know, man. That's a
Yep.
hard thing. Go ahead,
Well,
Captain.
you're playing a risky game, quiet quitting, right? Because like the other person could always fire you. So I think you
Mm.
have to kind of weigh those risks of like trying just hard enough to keep your job or like stay in the relationship. Because what happens if you're not really trying to quit, but your partner comes around and is like, nah, I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. I mean, like if we talk about Ben and Morgan, completely forgot. It's like
Never forget.
never forget. I mean, it was such a toxic relationship, but he was doing everything he could in the relationship while she was doing the bare minimum, literally just being around him until she was like, I can't do this anymore and leave the house. So in that regard, it's like when it when it comes to like relationships, and this is my opinion, I would love to hear you guys too. But when it comes to relationships versus like job, I think that's a hard one because a job you can be like, well, I hate this job, but I'm gonna quiet quit until I can get a new one. So, or at least do a little bit more until you find a new one, because you don't want to be on your ass paying these DC's prices. But with a relationship, it's like I mean, it hurts the top part of your mind hierarchy of needs, but it don't really damage unless you're stuck in a relationship where you were saying that you're splitting rent. So that's when it gets tricky.
I was laughing because you were like, basically saying you can't shop for a new job. You can shop for a job while you're on the job, but when you're in a relationship, I'm sure there are people who shop for a new relationship while they're in a
Look,
relationship.
my grandma, 90 years old, told me her advice to me was that you always have to have one on the back burner, honey.
Oh my god.
This is where you always make that plan. You're like, hey, if we're both still single at a certain time, we just pull the trigger.
Right.
Let's do it. You gotta have one on the back burner. Thanks, Granny.
Thanks,
Yeah.
Grant. See, look, man, the the older generation, they know, man. Your grandma's a real one.
I
'Cause
mean, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't tell anybody this. I'm just gonna keep it 100 for the pod because we got to be honest with our listeners. I've told my wife that if me and her divorced, me and Jermaine are eloping. Like, we got to elope. We got to do
yeah,
it. We definitely have to make this move because you're a good-looking guy. I exist.
you're
Like,
a good-looking
it's a
guy, man. What
perfect
you talking
match.
about? We can run together, especially on the beach. We can play beach volleyball like
Oh
Top Gun.
my god, I'm lactating. I'm lactating right
Right,
now.
we can go to the finest restaurants. We can jet fly. Bro, look,
We can hit every
please,
state. Every state.
every state,
So
Hmm.
that's
every state
my
that all hours.
podcast. I see now.
We can thruple this thing. We can thruple this. I don't know if you're in. You're in or you're in. Like, come on, piss or get off the pot. What are we
Yeah,
doing?
That was
no,
a
come on.
that was a late invitation. I have to. My feelings are a little hurt, but
To the thruple?
yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to the answer. We give me.
Well, unfortunately, me and my wife are staying together forever, so it's always going to be a hypothetical. But I do have a question on closing. Do you guys think that there's a way to get out of that quiet quitting mindset in a relationship, and how do you recommend getting out of that?
Catherine, you want to go first, or you want me to take a stab at it?
You take it first.
All right. So I think you can. It'll take a lot of work. It just depends on the if the issue how deep the issues are. But I feel like it can be fixed. Fixed in the way that you might not like sometimes. Like it may have to be a breakup. But first we're gonna go with the positives. You can fix a quiet quitting relationship or marriage by first addressing your needs and wants and being honest with each other. It's gonna take a lot of work. And I know me and Martin talked about this a lot in our earlier episodes with mental health
And Catherine.
and Catherine
Catherine.
about mental health, basically doing the self work on yourself and also like really digging deep in your relationship and trying to figure out like why are we here together and how we can move on. You can use like let's get closer that Catherine mentioned in our 2 episodes ago, and Martin no, and then Martin also mentioned a couple of times the other board games, and you used the app before. With you and your wife when you were trying to when y'all were getting preparing for marriage. What was that app?
Lasting.
Lasting.
Yeah.
So you may have to do some work, but then it'll open up the doors for that to be fixed and mended. But first you have to address your problems. What do you want out of this relationship? And then you can move forward. Catherine, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that both people have to be willing to. Quiet quitting does do a little bit of damage to a relationship, and so you've got to you're starting from the bottom, um, to get back. But as long as both people are willing to like do the work and to listen, I think that there is definitely a chance. Um, like you said, the path there might look a little bit different. It might take a lot of work, whether it's some kind of like therapy, either individual or couples, or um, some time apart to come back together. Um, but yeah, I think that if you are in the quiet quitting situation, it's not hopeless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think that's the end of the world. You just have to communicate. Most relationships end because they're not communicating. I think
Yeah.
it's like communication and then money. But those two things are like the clear reasons why people divorce or don't or break up, et cetera, et cetera. As long as you can get back to the point where you're communicating, you're being honest about your feelings, and maybe you can attack because you can't attack it alone. You have to attack together, like Catherine said. And I think that's the step in the right direction. Speaking on that note, actually, we were watching like episode 11, and Justin and Alexis, they were playing this game where they wore a blindfold, and they like got to say how they felt to their partner, while the other person couldn't see their reaction while they were talking, and the other person had to stay quiet. So I don't know if they did it right, but we did it the same way they did it, where the person wearing the blindfold didn't say anything; they just listened, and the person without the blindfold was able to talk. So the way that I understood that is, you lose a sense because you're not able to see, but it makes you hear and actually listen to what the person is saying. So I was like, oh, there's probably value in doing it that way. So with that being said, me and my wife, we played that game last night, and we just kind of said what was on our heart, and it was a really positive experience, and I got really closer to her. And I think that that's something that joke all you want about the trash television shows. Some of the things they actually get out of it is really beneficial. So, you know, that's my just trying to get everybody to watch trash television a lot more. Married at First Sight, Love Is Blind, all the trash. 90 Day Fiance.
90 Day Fiance, especially the single life. You see body language, you can learn a whole bunch of things. Bachelor, I don't know. That's too fantasy. But definitely those. You learn a lot about people. I really think, personally, like you learn a lot about the human condition.
I forgot I wanted to mention this too. I was doing research for this episode and I watched an ET interview, um, Entertainment Tonight, with Morgan.
How old are we?
You looked confused. I don't know.
ET Entertainment Tonight? What are you, 70? Who watches Entertainment Tonight?
Look, we have a very specific schedule here. It was on after dinner.
It's bad that I knew where you were. You're like, oh, I'm running late. I was like, they're just getting past dinner.
Yeah.
She's cleaning up after dinner. Damn it. Sorry,
No,
what is Morgan?
yeah, gosh, you guys really are hating on me tonight. uh, no, the therapist or whoever that was there said that any conflict that you have in a relationship, relationships are just a reflection. And so whatever you're feeling, you should look back at yourself and see like what you need and how you can fill that for yourself without expecting the other person to. And I thought that that was also really beneficial. Because usually a lot of what you're feeling is just like you're trying to project it on the other person to fix, and you really need to look inside.
No,
Ta-da!
that's
That's
sweet.
what I
I
had.
mean,
Yeah.
I think about and there's your party trick.
More excitement, more excitement.
No, but I think that makes a lot of sense. I think about some of the conversations in the show where the therapist would be talk or the counselors would talk to them. You're like, oh, you don't feel heard. Where does that stem from? It's just like when I was in gospel choir and the leader didn't listen to me. They didn't let me lead. I was just like, okay, they just don't want to hear me. So I was quiet in the back. And now I'm just always quiet in the back, and yeah, like I don't know, that's silly. So, I'm the middle child. I'll use mine. I'm a middle child, so I want to be seen, and I didn't feel seen by my parents. So now I project that by being rambunctious and loud and making everybody's significant other hate me until they get to know me. If you stay around for that, you're gonna stay around for me, and you're gonna stay around for my friends. It's a test. It's always a test.
It's always a
It
test.
is always a test.
Well, guys, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. If you're on live on YouTube, welcome. Like, see, look, this is why I need help with presentation. Anyways,
we've done this for 2 years. You should be comfortable by now. God damn.
No, words are hard. You know how the tongue works? Like my tongue, it doesn't do this. It goes like this way.
Got Catherine blushing. You can't
got
see.
it,
You
got
can't be
him.
doing that.
Got him. Can't be doing that. Now I have to put her on the on the author list. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for enjoying this episode. We really enjoyed this episode. If you guys liked anything, wanted to like get any of these references, we're gonna put it in the comments below. Please also like, comment, and subscribe. And also, if you guys want to email us, reach out to us. Where can they send it to? Stop.
Can you do the tongue thing?
Like this. If y'all can't see it on the podcast, I went up and down and then I did a corkscrew. That was the time.
If you think we need to make this podcast 21 and up, let us know. You can find us at Unsolicited Counseling Podcast on Facebook, Unsolicited Counseling on Instagram and YouTube. You can also shoot us an email at youadvicepodcast@gmail.com.
Awesome, guys. And as always, we love you guys. We're here for you guys. One drink at a time, one episode at a time. Be easy, y'all.
Latest.
Punching out.